right, everybody. This is kind of an on your mark, get set, go. I have been sitting here talking with my friend Paul, and it's just been an amazing conversation. Lots of fun. I can't even begin to tell you how knowledgeable he is. There are challenges that in 1 second he came around and went, "You should try this." And I went, "Yes, I should." So, Paul, we're going to go and weave your story into the founder's path, but I just wanted to welcome you to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Valerie, for the opportunity.
It's going to be a blast. And at the end of the day, most of this is about you, Paul, and about founders. And you have definitely worked with quite a few founders in your day, and kind of gone through some of the bumps and bruises that founders like to hear about, and also your successes. We want to highlight how to do things well, not necessarily, oh gosh, fail quickly and move on, which is, a philosophy, but, I'm just.
That pile's a lot bigger than my success stories. The failure pile is up here. My success stories are here.
And that's what makes it so great with Paul. Honestly, the genuineness, you're going to love this episode. So let's rock and roll, Paul.
Okay.
Let's talk about founders and how you kind of got here, how you created, doesn't have to be your specific company, but how you created companies, and from that little bit of a spark, they became a company, and what you would do differently or not do differently.
Yeah, well, I had a great pedigree. My grandparents on my mom's side, they owned a big lumber mills. And so, working in the woods and making 2x4s out of some trees out of the back, we did that. And then my other set of grandparents owned a drive-in theater. And I was chief cook and bottle washer, and excellent at making popcorn and putting it in boxes and selling it in the canteen. And so, counting money, registry, 5, 6 years old. Now I was doing that stuff. I went through high school, and I owned landscaping business. I'd pick up lawnmowers at the side of the road that people were getting rid of, take them, bring them home, fix them up, sell what I didn't want. And but basically, I had plenty of equipment to have my friends from school come and pick up machines and go cut grass around the neighborhood. I owned a Yankee ski club where we organized 4 or 5 of our local high schools to take day trips to Vermont and Maine to go skiing. And, the bus people would come and pick us up, and it might be 2, 3, 4 buses of just kids from high school. And they go, who's the adult here? I'd stand up straight and go, I am. And so,
oh my God.
And then, it's doing that type of stuff, then I went to college for computer science. I actually went to be in avionics or a pilot, and I wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force, but I wanted to relieve the financial burden for my parents. And so I went to the Air Force, I want to be a pilot. And they said, no. I went to the Army. I said, I want to be a pilot. They said, no, but we need computer science people. I've been doing computer science ever since I've been like 7th and 8th grade, because my first language was French. And I had to stay back in first grade because I didn't know enough English to move on. And part of the training and everything else was using computers. And, I have one of those things, Valerie. I realize that what I need to do, and I do it, even though there might not be a word for it, like mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I after college, I was doing programming for large companies like Blockbuster and Florida Power and Light, some ERP systems. And those jobs kind of came to me. But, as I started doing that, I go, and in my lifestyle at the time was I'd spend 4 days on a boat, 3 days on a boat. And then the other days I'd spend programming. Then the thing is, I pulled up my boat next to another boat at the same dock, and that boat was a little bit bigger than mine. I go, what do I have to do to earn the money to get that bigger boat? And so I go, I got to bring on people.
I'm there with you. What do I gotta do?
Yeah, I know. So I brought on a secretary. I brought on some technicians, and we started doing break fix in the industry. Your computer breaks,
yeah,
and you got to bring it to someone, or someone comes out to you and they fix it. Throughout that, we created programs that we packaged and resold to other break fix and other managed services providers. I did a lot of roll up of buying my competition at the time, and they wanted out for one reason or another. So I bought them, but everything I bought of their company, I didn't want a few pieces of it. So they call that divestiture. So I divested that stuff that made up for my entire purchase. So I got this whole business for nothing, and I got all the customers for nothing, and then my customers needed phone systems, and that's when phone systems were coming out of the closet, not for the obvious reason, but they went out to the cloud, and so I go, well, fudge, I'm already taking care of, all the communications, the emails, the browsing, the internet, and everything else, and now I can just easily just pop voice through there. And the profit margins on that were really high, about 80%. And so I go, well, let me add that. So we built the infrastructure and did all kinds of stuff. We had problems here, there, and everywhere else. So, about 15 years ago, I go, well, and I had like 4 or 5 businesses running at the same time. I want to simplify my life. So I'm
kind of there with you right now.
I divested my portfolio. I sold off stuff, honed some interest and stuff. And I started turning around organizations. And one of the first organizations I turned around was the largest NEC phone systems dealer in the Southeast United States. They were, and they were at the same time that, whenever you're buying a new NEC phone system, it's a big box you put in your closet. And then you get all those lines for it and everything else. That's very, very expensive upgrading, or you can't even upgrade. It's called a trash can upgrade. You go in the closet, you take a trash can, fill it with one unit, take another one almost out of a brand new box, put it up there. But you're doing same thing every 3 years. Well, that's a beautiful revenue model. But if I can sell a customer, just pay for the service and be done. A SaaS model, a hardware SaaS model. Software as a service and hardware as a service, HaaS and SaaS. Anyways,
that's
did real well with that, and everything that I was doing with my main company, quality of service over the phone lines and everything else. I just took that technology, and this NEC systems dealer, when customers came to them, they're customers that they've had forever, which is the who's who in northern Florida, southern Georgia, and I said northern Florida, but they go to them and they ask, we want to go onto the cloud. And they did not quite know what they're doing. And so they put the customer up on the cloud, and voice calls would get disturbed, bad quality, drop calls, and all that stuff. And, they needed my technology that I developed and shored them up. When I first joined them, they had 3 Excel spreadsheets. Well, one spreadsheet that was 3 pages long of all the customers that had problems. It took me about 3.5 to 4 weeks and about $40,000-$50,000 of equipment to put equipment in place and software in place to ensure and mitigate the risk of losing any type of bandwidth, therefore increasing the voice quality and mitigating the drop calls and everything else. And then everything went fine and dandy. I think it took me about 13 months, and I increased their revenues by 103%. And so I got a history of doing that. We were talking.
You got a history.
I got a history of doing that. If me and my team, we can't double or triple something within 9 months or a year, something's happening. It's either we joined a team and the team is not functional.
Yeah.
And the favorite part of my month, Valerie, is the last Thursday of the month. That's where I fire at least one client.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
impressed.
Oh.
You know, so in summary for other founders that are listening, and obviously a lot of these founders on this show have solved challenges, but to summarize, a lot of the entrepreneurial spirit is noticing a need and a challenge. And what I liked what you did at NEC was to listen to the customer's proven and repeatable pain point with the problem.
Oh, yeah. If I
That's
have
what
to
you
hear the
did. You
pain points, there's a
analyzed.
problem.
Yeah. And
But I was able to
identifying
take
them
care of them
quickly.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, both. And I think one of the things that also that should be repeated is realizing that it doesn't matter the economic environment, it matters the opportunity within the economic environment, and that you go in and see where the play goes to, where it pivots. There's this sort of concept of, I posted on LinkedIn this concept of frustration where it's bookended with knowledge, right? And when you're bookended with knowledge, the frustration stops because you have the knowledge, you have the thing is fixed, right? And you move on to the next change. And even, I love Jack Stack's Great Game of Business because it talks about, I call it nuns on the run, but it talks about dressing people up as nuns in school buses, because back in the Detroit steel battles back in that day, the picketers wouldn't stop a school bus with a nun driving it, right? and they had mouths to feed. They were a manufacturing plant. They had mouths to feed, and they had contracts that they actually had to fulfill. And they went in and they asked the employees what they think they should be doing, because that was one, listening to what could happen. We're all heroes in our own mind, but other people have great ideas that are really what drive this stuff, right? So at the end of the day, they went in and they looked at this situation, right? And they said, what do you guys want to do? You're going to lose your jobs. And it was the employees who came up with the idea, well, they're not going to stop school buses with nuns driving it, and we can bring the steel in the school buses hidden, and they're going to let them pass. So I call it nuns on the run, because the reality is it is such an interesting idea on pivoting when there's a challenge that's happening that presents itself. And you have successfully showed that entire process of new product development. Basically, we got to solve this problem to make it better. So how do we do that? Then you created a product, then you pitched said product. You did that with the skiing in high school. It's like somebody needs to go skiing and people want to buy this. It was good product market fit.
No, it really is. It's just identifying the white space. Like you're saying, you do stuff in cybersecurity, and I do a fair amount where, there's so much AI in cybersecurity. There's just so much noise out there. I go, give me a comparison chart with your 5 closest competitors, and and go through there. And the nice thing about it is by doing that, you're identifying the weak points of your competitors. And so one of my clients, I had him go, okay, dig into, for instance, a company like CrowdStrike. They take care of a lot of stuff. But the company that I'm coaching has routines and intellectual property that will fill in the gaps of what CrowdStrike has. And so rather than CrowdStrike,
I thought you said CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike, sorry.
Oh yeah, it is CrowdStrike, right?
CrowdStrike, yes, it is.
Or
You pronounced it right.
Okay. Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was a different company that you were.
I say tomato, you say tomato. No, but you said it
Well,
right.
and it's okay. I just thought I was on the wrong train of thought for all the problems that were associated of late with something that happened with that organization, which is really,
They
it's
came
sad.
out of it pretty well.
They did. You come out a good thing. With lemons, you get lemonade sometimes. So I'm impressed. Keep going.
Their team is phenomenal, and for them to make the lemonade that they did, although they did point the fingers at some other places that might have been a little bit bigger than them. Yes, it depends on who you talk to. That's not necessarily the mature way of going about it, but you're trying to stay in business, and when you can actually prove stuff like that, go, guys, we kind of followed a little bit of what we did, but we're not the only ones to fall on the sword here. We'll fall on it, but some others are going to come along with us.
We'll do another podcast on saving at-risk clients.
The problem is
that's
those clients.
Discussion.
Well, those clients that are at risk don't want to go out and get the help before it's too late. It's called turnaround work.
It is turnaround work, and there is some finessing with it. And I'm not going to get sober on that one, but I derailed you from your original conversation with CrowdStrike, because I do feel like they got a little bit of a bad rap on some things, and they did remarkably well through some of those things.
Follow the money, Valerie. Follow the money. They're fine.
I know. We say follow the puck.
Right? I always follow the money. You take a look at earnings, you take a look at SEC filings, you take a look at business plans, and you take a look to see the money, and then you're able to call, no, this is not good money. This isn't going to work. And let's not talk about that. I've done a lot of that, especially when I try to develop plans for my clients that need to go against competition. And by looking at SEC filings, you see what they're doing a year ahead of time because they're public. And you go, no, that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Oh, so we didn't think about that. Well, let's go ahead and incorporate that into our plan, into our roadmap for business growth.
Absolutely. So when I meant following the puck, I meant pivoting. Wayne Gretzky always said, follow the puck. Okay. Following the money, yes, that's a whole nother dialogue too. That's why I'm saying we could get all into at-risk and that kind of thing here. And in fact, maybe we should eventually, but I derailed you from the original storyline that you were talking about. And that's what I was trying to bring it back to your original.
Yeah. But, it's a lot of times, I'm going in to organizations and identifying the white space, identifying what policies, procedures, identifying people that keep organizations from growing or from, the stake owners, the people that put the money in these organizations, private equity, whatever they might be. They're not getting the return on investment they need to be getting. Well, they get someone like me or maybe someone like you, Valerie, to go in there and, for every, $100,000, it takes about 4 or 5 days to circulate to actually figure out what's going on, then come up with a plan in order to take care of things. You jump into a lot of CRO opportunities, chief revenue officer type of opportunities, and it's the same thing. You're responsible for everything that's being made, the way it's being presented, and the way it's being sold. And you're responsible for all that, and that's a huge responsibility. That's second most responsibility in an organization other than the CEO in the executive team. So
it is a rough role,
and that's a lot of fun.
Surprising. It's a lot of fun, and you get to see a lot of joy from it and a lot of pain and tears.
I don't know about you, but when I talk to a CEO and they're not growing as much and everything else, 4 out of 10 start kind of tearing up and everything else. It's their baby. It's their baby. And if someone asks me those hard questions, directly, depending on where I was in my life and what was going on, I might be tearing up too. But you got to get real. You got to get real to take care of your issues and to push forward.
Wow. I think that for founders to realize that part of it, because we know, so there's hard dialogues. We know that business failure is a high rate. And at the end of the day, I think there's a stat, I think it's from Bankrate. I'd have to go look at it, but 84% of business failure is due to cash flow attributed to revenue dysfunction, revenue teams. And that means that they don't have something set properly, either in marketing, sales, the product itself, or the circulation of it. And sometimes you do have to have a hard conversation with people about that.
I find those companies that are not in revenue or they're less than $1 million in revenue are stuck in that boat. Mm-hmm. Once you're at the $1 million, you are just starting to build momentum in order to get going. You've gone. Hopefully, you've got a good product, and you're just trying to figure out who exactly is your market, and stuff like that. And once you get up above $1 million, you're mitigating business failure. You're under that, you're trying to stay away from business failure, but experience can go a long ways. You get a coach that's been there, done that, 300, 200, 100 times. And, you mitigate your risk when you team up with a coach or an advisor that's been there and done that.
So let's talk about that. So a lot of times coaches used, so I sang opera for 18 years and I coached it for 10. And a lot of times you see in sports, musicians, anybody who is the top echelon, they always have a coach. There's resistance.
I think 90%.
There is resistance.
Yeah.
There is resistance to having a coach for some reason. That word, almost like some people think sales is a 4-letter word. In all reality, they think that there's a resistance because it's a failing or something that they have to have someone help them. And I don't understand that. Like, you've got so much money on the line. Why would you not get somebody who has a journey that they want to take? Go ahead.
I suffered from that myself. I suffered from that. In my 20s, I suffered. I was the smartest guy in the room. I was all alone, but I was the smartest guy in the room. On my LinkedIn at Paul Daigle, Daigle, I have articles I've been writing for the past 5 or more years. And I wrote an article that 90% of organizations that generate $5 million in revenue have a coach. Yeah. And so it decreases, under $5 million, it decreases substantially. But at $5 million and above, 90% of organizations have a coach. And that's when they really start accelerating their growth through their business maturity model.
And that's so odd because you would think that it'd be sub 5 million because they're trying to get there, because they are trying to get there.
Yeah, they need it sub. Like, Valerie, how many people come to you and ask you to coach them? And then how many do you
accept? Because they don't understand that role to begin with. CRO is one of the hardest roles for them to grasp.
And then how many do you accept? We probably get 30 to 40 on a monthly basis, and we only accept 2 or 3 because we're going to accept what we're really good at and what's directly in our lane, and we're gonna skyrocket. We're going to accelerate their growth through their IT business maturity model, whatever it might be. And we do that a lot through strategic relationships. and go,
Yeah.
if you teamed up with this other company, let's go back to the cyber thing. CrowdStrike. I got another company that will fill in the gaps of what they need. And the thing is CrowdStrike can take that information or kind of steal that intellectual property and put it in, but it takes time and effort. But if they all have to do is get licensing and spend 2-3 weeks to incorporate all that stuff and make their cyber solution more so someone can't take advantage of it.
Impenetrable.
Someone can't penetrate. The thing, you're going to be so much better off in just identifying those white spaces. And you don't. I get companies that want me to introduce them to larger companies. Go, but you're not ready. You're not ready. They want to be introduced to a $20 billion company, and they're barely doing $500,000 in revenue. Unless they're going to take you and gobble you all up, they don't want to work with you.
Yeah, that's a strategy in and of itself, but to grow and have that in your sights. Mm-hmm. And yet you're right, they don't have the historically working enterprise. I worked in healthcare for an organization, and at the time that we were creating a use case with DST Health and United Health, and then another one with United Healthcare. And some of those deals that you're creating are a $5 million deal. And if you're only a $500,000 company, it's like, there is a time where it's like, why don't I just develop this myself? Because I could do it in-house, or I can acquire you. And I think that that's a strategy as well. But a lot of times they will work with coaches simply because they want the introductions. That's the number one thing that I get all the time. Will you just sell for me? And I'm like, no, you're not ready.
Well, the more times I fail, the better. The more
true.
times I
Let's
fail,
get into failures.
And the older they are. But the thing is, it's about their pedigree also. It's about their business, their personal pedigree, and their business pedigree. And that goes a very, very long ways.
So get into that. Let's get into business failure. And I'm not talking about your failures. I mean, we kind of all aspire to fail quickly on a product so that you can make sure you haven't spent too much money on it and some of that. But just building a company, it can be an expensive proposition to fail quickly. So I'm not sure I completely ascribe to that. Maybe their product market fit, they need to redesign a little bit. But tell us about some of the things that you've learned from some of that, because you mentioned that you've had some failures at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Always. Expensive on failures is the thing that makes up the expense that's more valuable than money is time. I had an organization, an idea of an organization to be a new cell company, similar to Mint Mobile, T-Mobile, all those guys. And our claim to fame was that we're going to offer you service for $1 a year. You buy whatever phone, but we're going to capture all your data. We're going to capture all the data like all the big boys do. Okay. And when you sign your contract, they're selling your data to the Googles, the Amazons of the world. And that's just really a lot of profit that they're making. And so I saw the space, and I built the team. I built the sales team, the executive team, and there was only one team member that I couldn't get. But before I built the team, I had a handshake from a private equity company. Told them what I was doing. They know my track record. We did a handshake for $35 million. And so I said, I'm not going to draw on that until I get my team together. And I'm going to do it in 9 weeks. Well, I wasn't able to get the one guy I needed. And the one guy I needed, we had to put equipment in 8 data centers throughout the United States before the major carriers so we can get our information off and sell it, and then start building the company. And it's when you're doing it that way and you're not charging fees. I couldn't bootstrap it where I needed $35 million to get it to the point that I was generating enough money per month to pay for everything in the back. But I couldn't find that engineer that had that experience to go put the equipment at these data centers in order to capture the data before it was passed on to complete the calls. So about 8.5 weeks, I call up my guy. I go, I'm having a hard time here. He goes, Paul, who can I introduce you to? I go, this is exactly the type of person. I wrote it up. I go, this is what I need. Pass it around to anybody you have. And then also the team that I put together, I think an 8-person team I put together, pass this to everybody you got. I got a half week. And so everybody got all excited and everybody said that shouldn't be a problem. And so about 9.5 weeks later, I call him up, go, I took a few more days, but I just can't do it. Meanwhile, I had about 4 or 5 other projects in the back knocking on my door that I needed to get on and go, okay, I spent my time, I spent my money for 9.5 weeks. That's it. I'm going to move on, cut my losses and move on. And so, that was a decent sized job. It's a lot of people. Today, I talked to somebody that they have an AI cybersecurity tool that they want to sell, and they want to go through distribution. And they did not price their piece of equipment, or they did not price their service to go through distribution. So I should have made up a slide for this because I didn't think I was going to go here. But say the product cost, I'm writing this down, it cost $100 retail. It cost me $21 to make it. R&D, SaaS product, everything else. But okay, now I need to wholesale it for at least 2 to 3 times. So let's go. I'm gonna wholesale for $60 because I need to make profit there in order to keep the lights on. But I got a distribution partner that's going to help me distribute this to all their partners, and the distribution partner wants 20%. And then the person actually selling it wants another 20%. And that works in my model. That brings me up to $100 on the retail when you go buy the stuff off the shelf. But it's amazing. They don't realize how much money they need to spend in distribution, and then add marketing on top of it. Then if you have internal salespeople, you're breaking into your $40, you might only end up with, a little bit less than that. I call it selling themselves broke. I got a guy that developed a ball that when you hit it, it turns a certain color. And they made it for baseball because as the ball is being pitched to you, you hit the ball and you have to keep your eyes on the ball to actually see what color the ball was. So the coach goes, what color was the ball? To make sure you kept your eye on the ball. And they use it for baseball, and they use it for cricket. Big in cricket. Okay. And so, this guy, and he was selling on Amazon. He priced out his balls. He's paying way too much for manufacturing, and basically he's selling the ball on Amazon for $100, but it cost him $130 to make it and ship it. No profit.
I'm sorry. I keep going.
That's what
I have a 5 out of 4
make the mistake.
People hate. Yeah, they do. I mean, I wear a T-shirt that says 5 out of 4 people hate math. And I get stopped all the time, like in an airport, with people finally getting it, because the reality is if you're selling for $130 and it costs you, if it costs you $130 and you're selling for $100, you're losing $30
on every sale.
Time.
Yeah, and this guy
on every sale,
this guy had a full-time job, a good full-time job, and basically, and he relied on the money you get back from the government when he did his taxes to get even and to buy more stuff from China.
And there is a strategy that does do that. So, and there's also the strategy. I'm trying to remember. I don't think it wasn't NEC. There was a strategy. There is a strategy where you do buy your customers just because you're trying to sell off and you're selling the customer base. But I would look at the financials heavily and make sure that that's in line with the goal and the tax return and everything else that they're trying to do. But it's a scary place to sit in because you can lose even bigger at that point. But I think the key to what you just said is sometimes I have people who struggle when I ask them, I say, what's your 5-year financial forecast? What do you want? Where do you want to be in 5 years? What's your 5-year? What's your 1 year? What's your 2 year? And a lot of the EOS integrators, oh no, just do a 1, 3, and a 5. And I'm like, no, I need to see the transition by month, especially if it's in a SaaS. If it was in some kind of physical product, when I was in heavy equipment, we had to do, it was like 6 to 9 month sales cycle, but to get it through production, it took so long to do that as well. So you had to actually have the factors of time for ready cash. And you would be amazed at how many would just go, well, this is our revenues. And I'm like, well, that's not the only reason you're in business. We can all get all the work we want for free. Turning that nice little profit.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're in it for, right, Paul?
Well, it has to be. You got to keep the lights on. You have to take a vacation every now and then. And you got to retire eventually. But Valerie, something we didn't cover is the cost of acquisition of a client. Once you got everything humming, you got to reduce the cost of acquisition. Yeah. That's where your story comes in. What makes you better than anybody else?
Yeah. So, and then you want to be able to see that the customer acquisition cost does over time become more favorable to you.
It should.
Because early startups are sometimes upside down in that. And then as they go over time, you should see a normal percent for the cost, and what's normal, I'm not going to discuss on the show because it depends on the industry too and what you're trying to accomplish. But, Paul, this episode has been one of my favorites, and I've done other podcasts and things like that. And I know that this is a newer podcast that I'm releasing. But this one has been a lot of fun. And I think it's because it's very eye-opening in the storytelling aspect. You're obviously, I say this not because it's not, I'm humbled by all of your ability to move companies in the direction they need to be moved very quickly, succinctly. And I'm humbled by the integrity to do that. A lot of times people forget the integrity is to get that done versus just hang there with a bunch of employees and be okay. Business changes lives faster than government can. And you're mining and hopefully building these businesses to help better products and all of those things. But I think you're doing a lot more than that. And I think you're doing it very succinctly, and people need that. They need to appreciate that. And so I'm giving a shameless plug for you, even though I do give shameless plugs. But
do you want me to say, do you want me to sum up real quick what we're doing now?
Yes. Sum it up and then drop in one place, your favorite place that they can get a hold of you.
Okay, well, LinkedIn, Paul Daigle, Daigle. Get a hold of me on LinkedIn. Awesome. Go see it. Take a look at our newsletters, and base for the past 4 years, I put together a business blueprint and roadmap. It's called the MSP Business Evaluator, where the MSP business can put in 4 parameters about their business. They can find out how much they're worth. Like everybody finds out how much your car is worth, how much your house is worth. You need to know how much your business is worth. And we tell them that. And then once you find out what you're worth, then we have the accelerator version that they can go ahead and determine what they need to do. They can find out how they compare against their peers. They can level up, and then they can set strategy and blueprint and roadmap to accelerate their growth up to the next peer group and the extra benefits they get by doing so. And they can do it by themselves with just using the MSP Business Evaluator Accelerator, or we have, not only do we coach on it, but we have other coaches in the industries, other coaches in the industry that use it to benchmark and use it for consulting other people within the MSP managed services market. And so
awesome.
It's beautiful. We're taking a lot of stuff that we've done over the years, and it's helping out so many. And I'm so glad to have put together a program for it. And the next program is going to be SaaS, and we have UCaaS. We have other things that we have a team that have that expertise. We're going to do the same thing. MSP Business Evaluator and Accelerator.
Way to go. I wish you a lot of luck with that right now. It's a hot topic. And thank you so much for being on the show today, Paul.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Had a good time.